So a day in the life of a part-time media / games design teacher, freelancer, YouTuber, and general aspiring 3D artist. So what's this all about then? Someone asked me to post about the types of job I do and what I'm currently working on, and that sounds like quite an interesting thing, because it is quite interesting. You get different jobs in, and some are more exciting than others, and maybe it'll give you an insight into the world of a freelancer. It's worth pointing out that I'm not particularly going after freelance work at the moment, so although I have a page on my website which has my portfolio, I haven't updated my portfolio for a long time in terms of my video portfolio. And like I said, I'm not really searching or advertising in any way. Where I get most of my jobs are people who've gone onto my YouTube channel, seen what I'm capable of, and then they contact me and say, can you help me with this? It's nice because it gives me some income from those sort of jobs. I don't earn an awful lot from the YouTube videos, and I don't earn much from my freelance stuff either. My main income is from my part-time teaching, and I'm fairly lucky that I don't need a huge income to sustain my excessive lifestyle that I have. In fact, lots of people ask me questions about what kit I'm using, and I'm very much a frugal person, so I'll only upgrade something when it's absolutely necessary. It sometimes gets in the way of advancement, so you have to be a bit careful being like that, but I think I've found the balance just about. And I always think you have to think really carefully when you buy something, is it actually going to reimburse you that amount and more? So if I'm buying a new monitor or something, do I really need sharp, crisper colours, or can I get by with what I've got? Is it going to make my work that much better? So I'd like to upgrade my graphics card, for instance, so I can get quicker renders. But an upgrade of a graphics card may increase my render times by 5%. And in reality, I'm not doing enough freelance work to justify that, I don't think anyway. So what am I working on? Well, I've recently had an email from Andy Vickers, and he asked if I could do some low poly stylized trees with a sort of hand painted style anyway. So we've had this sort of back and forth, and I've been talking about what his requirements are, and that's quite important, of course. Know exactly what the client wants before you start, and he's given me some examples of the types of things he wants, so I'm ready to go with that. He's at the early stages of his game development, so I'll probably come back to this and maybe give him a shout out later on if I can see my model in his game. That'd be exciting. And maybe as freelancers, that's what we're all looking towards, is our models being out there somewhere, being used by someone. That's the exciting bits anyway. So here I am in Blender making my tree. I'll do a sort of time lapse of it. And I've got my pure ref images here, just a few of them, just to ground me and make sure I'm not going off on a tangent. It's worth pointing out that although a model might only take you 1 or 2 hours, there is the preparation time, the research time that you do have to think about and consider, as well as the actual time that you spend on the model itself. So do think about that when you're pricing up a project. I always find it really tough. I think this will take me between 1 and 2 hours. I tend to go over that time, but often end up just sort of billing for that amount. Because again, I'm not too worried. This is kind of to encourage me to do more work, and I'm getting to practice and do what I love. So I have to kind of weigh these things up. So although this is going super fast, you can kind of get the idea of what I'm doing here. Just creating layers and building it up into a beautiful tree. I did a pretty rubbish thing here where I started sculpting the shape of the base. We were thinking, both me and Andy, perhaps normal maps would be something that would be nice to put in there to give it a bit more detail. But then when I thought about it, the edges are way too sharp and you'll get glitches all around the edges of the leaves. So I built the base in a more basic way and wanted the painting to sort of bring out the details. So it's about this point where I thought, hang on, we're going to have an issue with the insides of the shape. So I'll show you that in a bit more detail. So here's the stage I've got with the tree, and I'm trying to keep it as low poly as possible because it's going into a game. But the issue I have, and I need to find out about, is whether I need to fill in these undersides, because if we view it from this sort of angle, we're going to need double-sided shaders, and most game engines will try and keep it to one-sided for efficiency. But if at any point the tree turns over, this will all become see-through. Now you might think maybe just fill it in anyway, but that will obviously increase the poly count. So it's best to go back to your client, in this case Andy, and ask what he wants to do. So after an email conversation with Andy, He said that he would like to be able to see the undersides because the trees may be chopped down in the game and the character therefore might be able to see them. So I filled them all in, as you can see here, and then tried to tidy up as much as possible to keep the polygon count down. I thought also I'd mark the seams. I could have just done a smart UV project because I'm doing the painting, but with marking seams you have a bit more control, and I could, if necessary, take it into Photoshop and edit it. Photoshop is still a bit easier than working in a 3D program. So if you've got good seams, you can go in there and add detail. You'd always have to come back to your 3D program just to smarten up the seams in case there's any edges that are really visible. I had quite a lot of fun doing this project. I do like hand-painted objects. And it's just nice to think about new things, and that's why I love taking on new jobs, because they're usually quite different. The previous game asset job I had was to do a Martian scene and the little spaceman, so they're quite different. It's usually game objects that I get asked to do. I suppose that's what most people will see of my work. And at this point I'm getting pretty close to finishing the first draft anyway, and I'll send it back to Andy. I'll let him know how long it's taken me, which was over what I estimated, at about 2.5 hours. That will be because of the extra bits that I had to do, but also me just misjudging the time. I always seem to be overly positive with these things. And then Andy can take a look at this and he'll get back to me as to whether he likes it or not. Hopefully he does. I'm sure there'll be some minor changes, and then I'll change a few things, send it back, and that should be the finished job. One tricky bit I did find about this job was how much detail I needed to go, and I wasn't sure how much time that Andy wanted me to allot to it, so I probably should have been a bit more precise about that with our communication. But it's also one of those things as an artist, you really want to push yourself. So as well as doing a sort of freelance job like that, I'll probably make a YouTube video. I'm trying to make 2 on my days off. I work Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays at college teaching games design and media production. So I have Tuesdays, Thursdays and the weekend. I try not to do too much on the weekend, although I tend to overdo it a lot of the time because I do want to do other things. I play a lot of sport, so I try to fit that in where I can. But on my days off, the Tuesdays and Thursdays in particular, I'll try and do a YouTube video which is explaining something, or a tutorial type video, and I'm trying to do a blog video as well. So that's 2 videos and a bit of freelance work and a bit of art practice as well. And I've talked about the routines that I have on my days at college, and sometimes it's quite difficult to keep up with those, but I try and have a bare minimum. So I try and pack as much as I can into my days off, but of course still having fun with it. So I think I'm quite a lucky person because I get to do exactly what I like doing all the time, but I have worked hard to try and get there, and I'm still working hard. So with the YouTube stuff, I'd like to get to a point where I've got lots of subscribers and loads of people are interested in what I have to say, but it still takes time and effort, and I've got to work hard to understand the audience and interact with the audience and chat with them and so forth. I think that's one of the most important things for me in my day, is to try and have fun with whatever you're doing, find it interesting, make sure it's developing me as a person in some way. So that's a bit about my day as a freelancer, YouTuber, or whatever I am. So if you have any questions or any other bits of my life that you'd like to ask me about, then please do. I'd also like to hear about you, so get along to the Discord server and tell me about yourself and what things you're interested in. And that's the bit I really love, is getting to know you guys out there. So thanks for watching.